Alvarez had a dream. He made his come true.
It was to eventually open up a store and be successful at opening up that store. But the dream went on a little bit further, and we opened up with 15 stores.
That all happened recently within 5 short years. From his high-rise office overlooking the valley, Tony runs his entrepreneurial empire. He owns the Little Caesars pizza franchise valley-wide. That has afforded him the kind of capital and connections to become an international investor in other ventures. Though he never quite expected it, Tony's arrived. He's hit the big time, any way you slice it. For Tony Alvarez, Crazy Bread is not only what he makes in the oven, it's what he's made from the success of his pizza franchises. But Tony didn't start out well off. In 1981,
I was sleeping on the floor to try to make a living and still trying to pay off a lot of debt.
Tony was a social worker at the time. He had no business background. The turnaround was when he sought advice from the UT Pan American Center for Entrepreneurship and Economic Development, or SEED. Counselors like Brett Mann with SEED will help anybody learn how to get started in business. He showed Tony how to put together a business plan to get a bank loan. That's the key. What are the major elements of a business plan?
The most important is the financial projections. You also have management background of the individual. You have a marketing plan. What's the competition like? What's this individual have? Those are the basic features of a business plan.
But once your business is operating, Tony cautions that
besides being well informed of the industry that you're getting into, finding out about your competition, finding out about the availability of merchandise, the marketing, you need to have some capital to sustain the rough periods.
What's the most important element for an individual's success?
Drive and determination. The person has to be able to take the bad times along with the good times.
You can't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid to ask questions. And by all means, you've got to go out there and toot your own horn. Nobody else will care about you or your company as much as you do.
Above all, don't give up. Y buen provecho. Raul Nariola with the UT Pan American Center for Entrepreneurship and Economic Development for Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
It's a rag to riches story tonight in Mi Barrio. Randy Escamilla says the pizza business has taken Tony Alvarez from meager beginnings to making plenty of dough.
46-year-old Tony Alvarez is a walking inspiration. It took about 10 years for this entrepreneur to go from rags to riches.
I just knew somewhere, someplace, somehow, I was going to make it happen with a franchise company at the very beginning stages, and from then on, earn my stripes and get to the point where, gracias a Dios, I am where I am today.
Today, Alvarez operates a fortune that'll gross $20 million this year. He owns 15 Little Caesar pizza parlors, 6 Applebee restaurants, and soon 3 on-the-border cafes, all supported by 1,100 employees. Alvarez says he doesn't even know his annual salary. Somewhere he thinks between $50,000 and $1 million. Quite a change from 17 years ago when his annual salary as a government worker totaled only $12,000. Success, though, didn't come easy to Tony Alvarez. While starting out, major hamburger franchises denied him opportunities because they felt he would fail. But he didn't give up. He says you have to have ganas, a strong desire to succeed.
Besides the desire to succeed, you've got to have faith and believe that there are stronger beings out there looking after you, perhaps a guardian angel that looks over your shoulder and kind of gets you to go to the left, get you to go to the right, or have you make this decision or that decision when you're at the crossroads of what should I do.
Plus, Alvarez says, support from your spouse, courage, and never giving up all point toward success. Despite his success, Tony Alvarez remains humble, and while he does enjoy the good things of life, he's always remembered his roots. En Mi Barrio. Randy Escamilla, News 4 San Antonio.
And what's next for Tony Alvarez? He says he's hoping to acquire a $30 to $40 million restaurant chain next year.
I want to welcome you today to this special occasion where we will honor Tony Alvarez as the state winner of the Blue Chip Enterprise Initiative Award, sponsored nationally by the U.S. Chambers of Commerce, Mass Mutual, and Nations Business. Today's luncheon is sponsored by the North San Antonio Chamber of Commerce and Business Financial Group, and on behalf of the sponsors, let me say that we're glad you're here, and I think you're really going to enjoy the program. As we begin today, I would like to invite Father Carlos Velasquez to come and deliver our invocation. Father.
We invoke the God that we believe in to be with us this morning and afternoon. God of love and God of consolation, you have brought us to this moment in our lives. You have recognized us in many, many ways, and we thank you for everything that you have given us thus far. We ask that you continue to be a part of our lives, that you may lead us as you have led us in the past, so that we may continue to do great and wonderful things to you and to those men and women around us. That as we are encouraged by your presence in our life, we may also encourage others, those that may not have as much as we have, to be faith-filled members of your community. We ask for your blessings upon Mr. Alvarez and upon his family, and upon all families as they continue to strive to do the best they can with what God has given them. And we ask God's blessings upon our meal and those who have prepared it through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Father. As your food is served, your salads are in front of you. Please feel free to eat and enjoy yourself. I'd like to take a few moments and introduce our format today and introduce also some special guests. As I said, today we're here to honor Tony Alvarez for his outstanding accomplishments and to pay tribute to the entrepreneurial spirit which Tony so fervently displays. We will hear from Tony, and we will also hear from some of our past regional award winners through a panel discussion towards the end of the program. Joining us today are some very special people who I would like to introduce, recognize. We'll hear from Tony in a moment, of course. Tony, may I recognize your family? I know that your wife, Stephanie, is here, and your mother, Mrs. Amaro Alvarez, and your children. Would you all stand? The Alvarez family. I'm glad that y'all are here. Tony, I know in addition there's some folks here from Renaissance Development Corporation. Would y'all stand if you're with the company? There they are. Glad y'all are here. Joining Tony later in the program on the panel will be three of our San Antonio business leaders and former Blue Chip Enterprise Initiative Award winners. I'd like to recognize them. Louis Rowe is here, and Jim Matson is here, and Jackie Fellers. Jackie, thank you. We will look forward to hearing from each of you in a little bit. Here from the North San Antonio Chamber is Peggy Story and Kendra Nix, who are greeting you as you walked into the program, and Suzanne Hasses. Suzanne, we're glad that you're here. And Fred Rayleigh is the president, the chairman of the chamber. Fred, where are you? Right back there. Fred, we're glad you're here. And Wanda Rome is the incoming chairman of the North San Antonio Chamber. Wanda, wave. From Mass Mutual, we have Frank Woodruff. Frank, would you wave? I'm glad that you're here. Is Councilman Banwolf here? He is on his way. He will be joining us later in the program. From our state capitol, we have State Senator Jeff Wentworth. Senator, thank you for being here. Norma Reyes is here from Congressman Cyril Rodriguez's office. Norma, thank you for being here. And from our nation's capital and from Senator Phil Graham's office, we have Shannon Beating, who I would like to invite up at this time to bring some personal words. Shannon?
Well, thank you very much for having me here today. We're here today to honor Mr. Alvarez. As all of you know, my boss is a great admirer of entrepreneurial initiative and drive. And Mr. Alvarez's life is a success story along these lines. And so I wanted to read a short letter that Senator Graham wanted to send to Mr. Alvarez here on this special occasion. It reads, "Dear Tony, I wanted to send my warmest congratulations to you as you are selected as the Blue Chip Enterprise Initiative Award winner in recognition of your exemplary role in leading your business to overcome challenges and achieve success. This is an accomplishment of which you, your family, and your community can be justifiably proud. Your commitment and willingness to serve as a model to others is commendable, and I join with your friends and neighbors in applauding your outstanding efforts and dedication. May God bless you in all your future endeavors. Yours respectfully, Phil Graham, United States Senator."
Shannon, thank you, and thank you for being here. Lastly, I would like to introduce Javier Rodriguez with Lone Star Bank in the Valley. And Javier is a close personal friend to Tony and has many dealings with him. And Javier is going to deliver our keynote address. Javier, would you please come up at this time?
Thank you, Kim. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Javier Rodriguez. I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer for Lone Star National Bank, and I have the distinct honor and pleasure to be here in your great city today to address you and to tell you about one of the most impressive entrepreneurs that I've had the good fortune to meet in my last 21 years as a banker. To tell you a little bit about myself, before I graduated high school, I always wanted to be a banker, and during college was able to get on an internship program with the U.S. Treasury Department. I served as a bank examiner for 5 years, and after that time I was with a major Texas holding company at the time, InterFirst, for 5 years. Then I've served at a regional bank in the Valley, Texas State Bank, for 5 years, and I've been the president and CEO of Lone Star for 6 years. And during that time I've had the good fortune of meeting several entrepreneurs and working with the SBA and other economic development corporations. I currently also serve as the president of the Mission Economic Development Corporation. But I had the good fortune of meeting this particular person in 1991, and he's been a valued customer and a dear friend ever since. His demeanor is one of professionalism, kindness that allows him to be the type of person whose company anyone can enjoy. This man can talk equally to our custodians at the bank and his offices, as well as senators and princes alike. That's one of the things I admire about him. He's energetic, enthusiastic, focused on his personal and professional goals and his family. He graduated from the University of Detroit in Detroit, Michigan in August of 1972 with a degree in sociology and a master's degree from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan, in December of 1974 in administration and policy. And so I believe that the Blue Chip Enterprise Initiative Award recognizes small businesses that have demonstrated the ability to withstand adversity, seize opportunities, and succeed. Through the national application process, the initiative seeks to identify and learn from small businesses who have successfully managed resources, committed to excellence, and emerged stronger. And certainly, this particular individual and his company certainly do that. His company, A.R. Alvarez Enterprises, formerly Renaissance Development Corporation, through his leadership, epitomizes a company which has overcome adversity, successfully managed the resources, as I've seen it, from both not only a practical but also a financial aspect, and always emerged stronger. It wasn't always that way, though. The peso devaluation in 1980 along the Mexican border and its effect on the economy wiped out a small family business in Laredo, Texas, and left him with a family support, a loan to pay back, and no source of income. But he got a job as an economic planner and commuted from Corpus Christi to Austin. And during the week, he slept on a sleeping bag on the floor in the office of the building where he worked. Each morning, he would go to the trunk of his car and get a change of clothes. And he befriended the janitors who let him use the showers in the basement of the building. 10 years later, in 1986, he started the first Little Caesars restaurant in McAllen, Texas. The difficult economic period gave him the invaluable background in building this company. And he was doing this during the tough times, so you can imagine what he's been able to do during the good times. And now being in your fine city, you know, I can tell that he's going to do even better. Since then, he has faced many financial, competitive, and legal battles to which I can personally attest. But he's always successfully managed his resources, and his commitment to excellence has allowed him to emerge stronger, better focused. Simply put, he is aggressive, takes risks, and learns from his mistakes, maintaining a superior mental attitude. And it's my opinion, working with entrepreneurs, that that one thing that an individual that's in business has to have is a positive and certainly a superior mental attitude, because sooner or later, it's not a matter of if, it's when you have some problems to overcome, some challenges. Usually, these are combined with personal challenges, legal challenges, spiritual challenges. And it is my opinion that attitude is the single greatest quality that he possesses. Today, he manages 15 Little Caesars restaurants, 6 Applebee's, neighborhood grill and bar restaurants, and 3 on-the-border Mexican cafe restaurants. He mentioned to me that he was in process of slowing down a bit and looking at only 15 possible new locations. Today, his revenues exceed $25 million a year, and he employs over 1,000 people. Overall, I think any winner of this award has to be focused on excellence. And excellence is certainly what he is about. The list of accomplishments and awards that he has received are too numerous to mention here today. He has received over 25 regional, state, and national awards that I could identify, not the least of which are the Minority Business Person of the Year Award in 1994 by the Small Business Administration, the Small Business Person of the Year Award in 1997 by the San Antonio Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And I might add, that was 2 years approximately after the time he left the Valley, because he moved his headquarters to your city. He has also received both the District Entrepreneurial Success Award as well as the Regional Entrepreneurial Success Award this year in 1999. And I might add that the Regional Award covers 55 counties in 5 states, which includes Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arkansas, and Louisiana, and includes 10 SBA district offices. And of course, the SBA is the entity that makes this award. He has been appointed by U.S. Congressman Rubén Hinojosa to the National Board of the U.S. Small Business Administration in Washington, D.C., and as a delegate to the White House Conference of Small Business by U.S. Senator Phil Gramm. In addition, he serves on numerous boards, including the United Way of South Texas, the Junior Achievement of South Texas, and the College of Business at the University of Texas, to name a few of his other personal accomplishments. And through all this, has found time to keep his family and his company growing and prospering. He is both an inspiration and a challenge to me as a banker. And I'm proud to call him my friend. And I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. You know, most people, and I believe, you know, my customers are my single most important asset that I have. But with Tony, there's never a dull moment. You know, he's always, every time I meet him, there's always massive plans to work on and get done. And that's one of the things that I admire about him. So there's certainly never a dull moment. Now, the reason that I mention inspiration and challenges is that any company that can grow at such pace and generate the results that Renaissance Development has posted, currently A.R. Alvarez Enterprises, must clearly have an excellent leader, and I would add excellent staff, and an excellent value-added concept. And that's why I said that excellent is what he is about. And I want to thank Mass Mutual, the Chamber, and everyone here today for recognizing that along with me. In my mind, he is a legendary Hispanic franchisee. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about my friend, Anthony R. Tony Alvarez. Thank you very much.
Javier, thank you for those words, and thank you for personalizing Tony for us and telling us a little bit about what makes him tick. I would like to, hopefully he doesn't have a bite in his mouth. I believe Councilman Van Wolf walked in. Councilman, would you stand and let us see you? We're glad you're here. Frank, could I invite you to join me up here? Frank Woodruff is the general manager of the local Mass Mutual agency and will help me in making this presentation to Tony. Tony Javier has given us a very detailed description of your past accomplishments. I know from conversations that we've had that within the next 5 or 10 years we need to do this again so we can review the next chapter. We're excited for you though and want to say congratulations on all of your outstanding achievements and successes, and in recognition of all of your entrepreneurial efforts. Frank Woodruff and I would like to present you with the State of Texas Blue Chip Enterprise Initiative Award. Tony, would you talk to us and tell us your story?
Sure.
I want to hear it all.
Well, I wish to thank Javier for such a wonderful introduction. He's been a friend who's helped me during my McAllen growth years. Javier was like a pillar of support and strength in providing wisdom and been able to critique my business plans then as he does today. Still haven't let him off the hook yet. I'd like to thank right now also Kim Moore and Lynn Wyrich of the Business Financial Group who encouraged me to submit my resume for this prestigious award. In addition, my appreciation also goes to Mass Mutual, Nations Business, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to introduce my family just very briefly, where they don't really have to stand up, but my inspiration, my mother, Amparo Charola Alvarez, who has a front row seat during Fiesta because she resides above the restaurant on the Riverwalk, a Mexican restaurant named La Paloma. And so she literally does have a front row seat for Fiesta. And her companion, Mary Lou, who's there with her, and her daughter, Linda, like to, and they take great care of Mom. Very good. My lovely daughters, my twin daughters, Andrea and Lauren, my stepsons, the three J boys, Justin, Joshua, and Jason, Anthony, my 17-year-old couldn't make it with us today, and of course my beautiful and lovely wife, Stephanie, who is my soulmate and best friend and a great mom, who when accepted me as her husband also accepted the challenge of raising 6 children, knowing that 5 would be teenagers within a year. And she'll be the first to tell you that we're blessed with all of them, and that's our Brady Bunch. I, at this time, would also like to introduce my staff, which is Alan Jones, our Chief Operating Officer, and a great navigator of our ship, especially through our initial growth years and during our transitional years into San Antonio, Alan. And Bob Amaro, our Chief Financial Officer, who's been a strong asset at administrative and financial arena. Bob, and all the rest of the administrative and financial staff, thanks for joining us. At this time, I'd like to begin the story, but before doing so, I'd like to read you a letter that was sent to me back in July 21st, 1983, which I still keep a lot of documentation like this, and I won't bore you with all of it. But it comes from Burger King. And Burger King says, and I'll paraphrase, well, quote unquote, Burger King Corporation did include you as a prospective Burger King restaurant franchisee. For the past 2 years, irrespective that final documentation was not completed or that the required deposit was not received, it appears that presently the opportunities of your obtaining a franchise in the Dallas region are less than imminent. Burger King Corporation therefore believes that it will serve no purpose to renew your approval at this time. Sincerely. And I'll only read this to you right now because it means a lot more at the end. I was born 48 years ago as an only child, raised in an environment similar to the United Nations, and received my formal education from the University of Detroit and went to graduate school, graduated at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. When my father was a child, he migrated with his family to Detroit, Michigan in order to seek out a better life. During one of his trips to Mexico, he met my mother in Laredo, and within a year, they were married. Because of the Laredo connection, as a youngster, I would spend my summer vacations at downtown Laredo, where my mother owned a commercial residence, being in the family since 1901. The property had been economically underutilized for years, but was located 2 blocks from the original bridge leading into Mexico. It was in the heart of downtown Laredo. In 1977, my parents retired to Corpus Christi, and in 1979, due to my father's deteriorating health, I was able to successfully obtain a transfer from my employer at the time, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I moved our family from Detroit to Dallas in order to be closer to my parents during their illness. I give you that brief background so that, as Paul Harvey would say, and now for the rest of the story. While visiting my parents in Corpus, I would take some extra time from my job and travel to Laredo. While there, I was amazed at the economic prosperity along the border, which additional research concluded that now was the time to take advantage of the good times. Therefore, I convinced my mother that it was time to demolish the old 1800s building, which was providing her a monthly income of $1,300 a month, but with no mortgage. My further research of the retail market put me in touch with a business that would pay us $20,000 a month initially for rent. That would leave me about a $16,000 a month profit, with the note being around $4,300. Besides traveling to Corpus and Laredo during 1980, I also had the opportunity to attend a Burger King seminar seeking potential franchisees. I submitted an application and tried to become a franchisee for 3 years when they decided to let me go and not pursue franchise opportunities with them. In the fall of 1981, with rental leases reflecting $20,000 a month income, we got approved for a $340,000 construction loan. I quickly started our first company as A.R. Alvarez Investments. I quit my job at HUD, took out my retirement funds, and moved from Dallas to Corpus and into Mom's home. This was also the month and year my father passed away. We began the construction of 3 retail stores with storage units upstairs and an office space for my new offices for a grand total of 6,000 square feet. I was ready to take advantage of what the border economy was doing at that particular time. So with new leases and deposits in hand, I put a down payment on a condo, and I began to oversee the construction of the building in the first quarter of 1982. In the same year, my son Anthony was born. In the summer of that year, the border economy began to experience a slight drop in retail as the value of the peso slipped a little, which compared to past peso devaluations, and considering our robust economy, serious concern was not displayed by anyone. In the fall of 1982, however, as most of us remember, but myself very, very particularly, the peso devaluation went from minor currency adjustment to a major economic catastrophe. The pedestrian and automobile traffic went from a New York Times Square on a Saturday afternoon environment to a ghost town within days. The dream turned into a nightmare overnight. There were establishments going out of business, bankruptcies, suicides. Those were very stressful and difficult times, as the peso practically lost all its value, and the Mexican government froze everyone's cash and assets in all the Mexican banks. You could not withdraw a penny out of your account. Imagine this: one day you have a $10,000 CD, and the next, it's only worth $4,000, and your money is worth less each day, and you can't do a thing about it. You could get a loan, however, on the U.S. side at that particular time if you were ready to pay 21% interest. So there I was, caught in an international currency squeeze on both sides of the border. The commercial building was uncompleted at that time. My tenants, like all others who could, left town. So I deeded my condo back to the title company, and there I was, with no job, no cash reserves, unpaid bills, and Mom's Corpus mortgage. So around January, February 1983, the building finally completed. My mother and I switched residences. She moved into the upstairs office apartment, and I moved the family into her Corpus Christi home so that I could begin to look for a job. I now had all our bills to pay and a new $3,400 a month note and no income. I don't really remember how I kept all the payments up. All I know is I begged and borrowed from anyone and everyone. I have to believe that that was the first time that my faith in the Lord was tested at this level. If ever I may have thought the Lord abandoned me, I was wrong, because as it says in a story entitled Footprints, He was carrying me during my darkest hours. I had thoughts of filing bankruptcies, but I had been raised to honor your financial obligations, no matter how difficult it may be. My first job in Corpus was as a social worker in a kidney dialysis center, paying $12,000 a year. Knowing I couldn't make ends meet with that salary, I continued to pursue better paying jobs. My search took me to the Hill Country, where I got a position with the City of Austin as an economic development specialist. I would leave my home in Corpus around 3:30 in the morning on a Monday and arrive in Austin about 7:30 that morning, leave on Friday afternoons about 3:30 p.m., return to Corpus, arriving somewhere around 8 o'clock in the evening. The office building I worked in was on South Congress, and again, I believe the Lord was looking after me because the building had a basement and showers. And really, how many buildings in Texas have basements, let alone showers in them? This was a godsend that I didn't know at that time, because without funds or family in the Austin area, I had no money for a hotel room. I thank God for credit cards, and why? Because I would go to Sears or Montgomery Ward's, charge a sleeping bag on a credit card and a small TV, keep those items with the tags on them and keeping them in great condition. And no, I didn't think of going camping at that time. Instead, I kept those items along with my change of clothes for the week in my car until nighttime. Little did my colleagues know that the reason I always stayed late at the office was because after going out to get supper, I would return to my car, get those items out, roll out the sleeping bag, plug in the TV, and go to sleep on the floor of my office building. I got to know the janitorial staff very well. They would let me in and out during their shift. And in the mornings, I would get up around 5 in the morning, take a shower, put everything away in the car, and be at my desk before everyone else. So just before the 30 days were up on expiration on the sleeping bag and TV, I made sure I made it back, got a credit. And this time I went either to Sears or Montgomery Ward's, the other department store, and gave them all of my business for the next 30 days anyway. And I started all over again. I did this for about 3 months until I could afford to bring my family from Corpus and rent an apartment, or actually rented a house. Shortly after the twins were born in August of 1984 in Austin, I had received a better paying job again with HUD, but this time it was in San Antonio. I again began to commute daily. Once the twins got home from the hospital, though, because they were preemies and needed a lot of attention, I would take the night shift at home. I changed their diapers, feed them, burp them, and place them back in bed, awaiting the next go-around a couple of hours later. And then at 5 o'clock, when it was time to get ready to go to work, I'd just stay and go to work so I can get some rest. During this time, I paid all our bills, and sometimes a little late, as you can imagine. I also applied for a McDonald's franchise, and again, I was turned down. In 1985, I was finally able to not only lease our Laredo property, but I created a condominium regime structure and sold the 3 units with Mom receiving a life estate in her apartment. With the sale, I paid back everything I owed to the bank and others who had lent us money, and kept some of the proceeds to open a costume jewelry distributorship that lasted less than a year. It was about the beginning of 1985 that I got a job in Corpus working for the city. Then we moved again in order to be closer to home and have help in raising our 3 children. While in Corpus, I saw a Little Caesars pizza parlor open and quickly spoke to the franchisee about franchising. I knew about Little Caesars from my Detroit days since their headquarters were there. I submitted an application, interviewed, and was approved for a franchise in McAllen. In January 1986, with the little proceeds that Mom had left from the sale of the building, again, I quit my job, went into 8 weeks of training in Detroit in February and March. I moved to McAllen in April and opened our first store in May of 1986. The second store, which opened in March of 1987, was on the south side of McAllen, but it was choking me, as sales were at $2,500 a week with a break-even of $6,000. I began to circulate dollars from the first store, and with the help of University of Texas at Pan American, their seed department, I secured a loan from the SBA, and the 3rd and 4th Little Caesars store took off. I also decided to place tables and chairs at the second store, initially at the objection of the franchisor, who at the time encouraged me to close down that store and just stay with one. And after a few months, it also took off with sales of over $10,000 weekly. We subsequently got approval to develop additional stores thereafter, and in 1990, I opened 9 stores in 11 months. We also became an 8A contractor, successfully bidding on a food service contract at Fort Hood and Killeen. In the fall of 1995, I moved the company to San Antonio. Today we have 15 Little Caesars, 6 Applebee's neighborhood grill and bars, 3 on-the-border Mexican cafes, And what's the short-term business climate look like? Well, because of the high caliber of professionals that I've been able to assemble and their commitment to always raise the bar to new heights, we have just been approved for 3 more Applebee's in the Corpus market, 3 additional Applebee's in the Valley over the next 12 months. We will also begin negotiations with Applebee's Corporation to expand into the Houston market, developing between 10 to 20 stores over the next 5 years. We are also negotiating with the Pat O'Brien's group out of New Orleans to open up sometime in the first half of next year in downtown San Antonio. And when people ask me, what do I attribute my success to? I say the Lord has been my guiding light. But in addition, I'd like to take this opportunity to reflect on a quote that describes a personal characteristic that I take pride in, which is persistence. The power to hold on in spite of everything, the power to endure. This is the winner's quality. Persistence is the ability to face defeat again and again without giving up. To push on in the face of great difficulty, knowing that victory can be yours. Persistence means taking pains to oversee every obstacle and to do what's necessary to reach your goals. Do you know why I believe so strongly in that characteristic? Remember that letter I read to you at the beginning from Burger King, when they said, quote, the opportunities of your obtaining a franchise in the Dallas region are less than imminent, unquote. Well, a couple of months ago, I finally became a Burger King franchisee in the San Antonio market, which coincidentally is in the Dallas region. We have been approved to build 6 new stores during the next 18 months, and we are negotiating to purchase another 10 stores today. I end this speech with a quote from one of the greatest coaches of the Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi, who said, to achieve success, whatever the job we have, we must pay a price for success. It's like anything worthwhile. It has a price. You have to pay to win, and you have to pay the price to get to the point where success is possible. Most important, you must pay the price to stay there. I thank my Lord, my family, my friends for everything provided to me, and I especially thank you for your time and attention today and allowing me to share my trials and tribulations of my life with you. Thank you. Tall right now. Thank you very much.
Tony, thank you very much. I was right when I said it's a moving target, and we will need to come back in probably not 5 years, but maybe 2, and hear the next chapter. I would like now to invite each of our panelists up. And we're going to have a question and answer format. So Jackie and Jim and Lewis, if y'all would come on up. And Tony. I want you to know that we appreciate very much each of you being here. As professionals and business owners in this room, we know how valuable your time is, and it means a great deal to us that you've come, and we're excited to hear from you. What I'd like to do is give a brief introduction of each of you, and then take an opportunity to rotate and ask you some questions about your business. Let me start with Jackie Fellers, sitting immediately to Tony's right. In 1990, Jackie's husband, Don, passed away, leaving Jackie to run the business. She operates a specialty advertising business, and while we don't have current figures, the year preceding your receiving the Blue Chip Enterprise Initiative Award, sales were in excess of $1 million on a product line of over 375,000 items. Next to Jackie is Mr. Jim Matson. Mr. Matson, in 1966, began a business called Matson Multimedia. The business was expanded in 1979 into video production, and Mr. Matson leads that company today. Next to Mr. Matson on the end is Lewis Rowe of Getting and Associates. In 1992, Lewis and two other principals acquired a consulting engineering firm called Getting and Associates. Going against the odds, they have continued to operate this business and have participated in many of the city's largest building projects. I'm sure you and Councilman Banwolf are on a first-name basis. They operate over $5.75 million in 1979 in revenue, and I'm still climbing, I'm sure climbing beyond that today. Tony, let me start with you, if I may, and I assume the microphones are on. Should we test them? Good. Tony, you have multiple locations and growing, and this is a very large company that you oversee. How do you go about monitoring the success or problems at each of your locations?
We call them challenges, Ken. There's no problems out there that we can't handle. First of all, you surround yourself with great staff like Alan Jones and Bob Amaro and the other folks that take care of me, and so I delegate a lot of the work to them. But in order to monitor as many stores as we have modems and fax machines, and we have reports that are due every day, every night. And Jerry collects them and distributes them over to Alan and Bob, and they monitor them and make sure that the percentages are in line, and the systems that we set up are adhered to, and when they're not, we contact the people that next morning, and sometimes the staff has been known to get a wake-up call from Alan at 6 or 7 in the morning or 12 midnight, and get some answers and hold them accountable for the responsibility. So we have good systems and checks and balances in place, along with high technology and good people. That's the only way you can do it.
Does Alan ever get a wake-up call from you?
Every once in a while. Every once in a while. He knows when I need him. He's always there. He's never failed me. He never will. And he's just a great asset to the company, a great friend more than anything else. But I'm able to work with my staff where I delegate again a lot, and because of my time spent with the federal government, which was about 7 years between Civil Service Commission and HUD, I always vowed never to make my company a bureaucracy if I can help it. So I hardly have any meetings with Alan or Bob. I basically let all my staff know that if they need me, they call me on my cell phone, they call me at home, anytime. Doesn't matter. This job, this position, the restaurant industry is a 24/7. And so they're there for me and I'm there for them. And we just meet in the hallways, meet at each other's. As long as the door's open, we drift into each other's office and talk and resolve matters, and we keep on running. And that's the only way that I keep Javier Rodriguez looking over his shoulder and wondering when I'm going to come next to ask for a loan.
I think he's ready for the challenge. Thank you, Tony. How many employees do you have in your company right now?
Somewhere between 900 and 1,100 people. We also have a satellite office in McAllen. But the thing about our success also is that, if I may, in the top management part of our company, even middle management, we have very little turnover. We just know how to select great people and take care of them, and they basically take care of us, and that allows us to continue to grow because we don't have the turnover that many other companies do, and that hampers them.
It's a great testimony. Jackie, I think we can relate somewhat to your business in that you depend on third-party suppliers, manufacturers to deliver your products, which puts you sometimes out of the loop, perhaps, with what goes on with those companies. What types of challenges do you face in working with the third-party suppliers and being able to deliver your customer service to your customers?
On that, I believe the natural issue would be to find a quality supplier that's going to produce a quality product in a timely manner. In the promotional product industry, we rely on about 3,000 suppliers. What we normally do is we evaluate the suppliers based on their best performance in the industry. and select a small group that we do business with that we can rely on getting an in-hand state. All of our items that we do is normally used for a special event, and getting the product to our customer is one of the most important things, issues that we have. We do follow-up work continuously with our orders. From the minute an order comes in, we're on the phone with our suppliers, tracking our order from start to finish until it's in the hands of our client. Relying on a third party where you don't have a hands-on, you really have to stay on top of it on a daily basis. We handle some of our stuff in-house where we have a hands-on, but a majority of it is handled through a supplier in our industry.
Okay. Jim, in your industry, you're dealing with high technology, new technology, changing technology. Can you describe briefly what some of those changes are, or that you anticipate in the future, and how do you stay up with that?
Very difficult, because if you watch TV and see the commercials and see a lot of the special effects that are out there in movies and so forth, then you have these manufacturers that want to sell you the latest magic box, if you will. They can do all these neat things. But we've learned that through the years that the first thing out of the box is generally it has a lot of problems with it, and it commands a very big price. And it seems like the manufacturer expects us to be the test pilots to tell them what's wrong with it. So we wait for the second generation. That way we save a lot of the headaches of solving problems that should have been solved earlier. And it also, generally, the price comes down significantly when the second generation of these magic boxes occur. The problem also is that those folks that go ahead and buy the first magic box that comes out, they pay a premium price for it, and then to justify the cost, they have to sell it to almost everybody that walks through the door. You know, you need to have this, and as a result, become overexposed. Then they're looking for another magic box, and they haven't even paid for the first one. So we find it expedient to wait, see what the problems are, talk to some of the users, and then decide which way we want to go. A lot of times we lease the equipment with an option to buy, because you never know what's going to stay current for any period of time.
The wisdom of the range of experience here is amazing. It seems to me the more wise the business owner, the more simple the problems become when they're described. I think you've expressed it well. Louis, because of the size of the projects that you handle, it must require an extraordinary amount of teamwork. How do you encourage and support cooperative teamwork? You talked about this morning, the different teams that you have. How do you organize that?
Well, basically, you start like Tony said, you hire good people. People want to do a good job. So what we've done is we've sat down together, taken the majority of our company, I mean as much as 25% of the time, and created a vision of where we want to go and what we want to do. From that vision, we next created core values. And these are company values that the entire company believes in. Each of those teams have then taken those same values and created values for their teams that are concurrent with the company values. Once everybody knows where you're going and what your goals are, from there on you just give people the authority to do things, and you allow them to do a good job, and they'll create teamwork. And the ones who don't want to work as team members, they usually won't stay on of their own volition because they don't feel comfortable in that atmosphere, because other people are kind of pushing them to be part of the team, to work together. And I see this on a weekly basis. We'll come in some project, all of a sudden it's been moved up from due next month to due this weekend. And then all of a sudden the other guys will sit there and say, okay, I can lend you this person, this person, this person. And they're pushing their projects away a little bit, but all in an effort to make what's good for the whole.
You talk about visions. Mr. Mattson talks about don't jump off on the newest magic box. Communication, good people. I mean, these are basic fundamental business philosophies that seems like would transcend industries and be helpful for all of us. Tony, what is your marketing plan for future penetration, new markets? You talked a little bit about some of the markets that you're looking at now in the stores. How do you go about making those decisions, and what do you see as your vision for the distant future, 10, 15 years from now?
Well, the food industry is changing nowadays to where it was 15, 20, 30 years ago, where you saw a lot of the families put all of their financial resources into one store, whatever it may be. Today you're seeing more of mega franchisees, which is good for the franchisors. And what I mean mega franchisee is that you have franchisees that have different concepts like we do and have anywhere between 50 to 100 stores. And franchisors look for a company like ours now because we have proven ourselves. We have the insulation necessary to take on the lean times. We have the staff that's already trained to oversee restaurants. We have lines of credit with our lenders already that we can basically take on a concept, take on an area once we decide which one to go to, and pretty much open up the stores very quickly. I think 10 to 15 years from now, as we get, the key for us can always, and I think for most business people, the newest project that you get under your wings, you always have to make sure that you got a good handle on it, you got good people overseeing it, you've got to nurture it to make sure that it's on its way, and then after that you continue to look on for new projects. And like in my case again, as soon as I see what projects or what companies we want to align ourselves with, which is a lot of the Tier 8 companies like Applebee's and Burger King's and now the Pat O'Brien, and there'll be others. I basically have a meeting with the staff, make a decision, should we or shouldn't we go with it, look at different criteria, and then hand it off basically to Alan and Bob, put it all together, and then I come back and monitor it and keep on looking for other areas to go to. We'll be looking at other areas, perhaps in Michigan, New Mexico, Colorado, for other concepts and other opportunities, because right now there's a changing of the guard, and many franchise or companies, kind of like the Burger Kings, where 20-year, 25-year contracts are expiring, and those franchisees either are selling the stores and getting out of the business or leaving it to their children. And so there's a lot of opportunity right now to be aggressive and to take advantage of those opportunities and then jump on them and be able to get particular markets and create them. And really in 10 or 15 years at one point I thought about going public, and I'm not sure if I want to do that. I like my privacy, and I like to be able to come and go, and I learned that money isn't everything. It's just a means to an end, and now I'm just having fun with the challenges that life has to offer. And so I'm not sure what I'm going to do 10 or 15 years from now. One time I thought I would semi-retire until I was at the Archbishop's function on Monday night with Father Carlos, and I saw Red McCombs up there speaking, and I said, if I think I'm going to retire, look at Red, he's still going right now. I said, I'm just kidding myself. I'm not going to be retiring anytime soon. I may slow down, but I'm not going to retire. So 10 or 15 years, God, that's too long. Give me 2 or 3 years.
Well, if you ever do go public, you might consider a frequent diners program, at least at the I-10 location. Jackie, how many employees do you have in your operation?
We have 10.
In looking at your operation, managing people in a customer service business, what opportunities do you see in the human resource area?
Well, the opportunities we see in the human resource area is availability of quality people in both administrative and staff. We've been very fortunate, I guess, that all of our employees have come to our company to ask to join our organization. And with them, they've brought a lot of expertise, which has widened our scope to get in niche markets, which they share with us. So like I say, we're a small company, 10 employees. We have 4 administrative people and 6 salespeople.
Are they all, the salespeople, local in your office?
We're all local, although we do business throughout the United States and in Germany and also in Mexico.
Is there much travel then to your customer base, or is it all done?
Not really any travel. Everything we do is mainly by phone with technology today. We're phone. In our industry, it's I guess most of our customers have come to us on a referral basis. There'll be someone down here at a convention and they'll see maybe a product that someone's using and ask where they get that, and they pass their name on to us, and they go back to New York or Colorado or Georgia and call us, and we start doing business with them. We have a lot of customers like that we've had for 10 or 15 years that we have never met that buy from us on a monthly basis, but we feel that we know them because of being in contact with them consistently.
How do you have a sales force of 6. How do you market yourself? Do you do trade shows? Do you do advertising?
We do trade shows a lot, and then we're very active in the community. We belong to several organizations. We try to support those organizations and give back to the community what they've given us. We do a lot of charity work. We donate to a lot of organizations. Sometimes maybe I should say that because we get calls. In the nature of our business, we just get several calls every day to donate products for certain charities. And we try to do, like I say, we're a small company, but we certainly try to do as much as we can along that field. But we're just out and about all the time.
Great. Jim, you've been in business over 30 years. No doubt you've seen and been through a lot of challenging times. At this point, standing on the brink of the end of the century for your company, specifically, what challenges do you see out there, and how do you anticipate planning for those?
The challenge is always to keep pace with the changes going on around you. And I already mentioned the technology changes there, which also generates another challenge in as much as these magic box, why I may end up paying $15,000 for. They have a version that's about $1,500. That some gifted amateur thinks he can go into video production because he has a camcorder. He can get this other program, and suddenly he's in competition with us. Well, because he can do it so cheap, he muddies the water for the rest of us, because there are a lot of folks out there that don't realize that quality consists of several elements. First, it has to be competence. You take this young man back here, Christian Carpenter, he's on my staff, and he's fully trained to do about any situation. But we are faced with a lot of competition. In the last few years, I've noticed that there have been about 15 additional listings under video production, but also 15 dropouts. And I think that didn't count the way it was going. But we've been in business for 33 years, and I think it's because we do deliver quality product at a decent price and on-time delivery.
Louis, your business is a function of the real estate business to some extent, as well as the economy, but the real estate business is a cyclical business. Of course, the stock market used to be viewed that way too, and it's simply cycled up, so it may happen that way in real estate. But how do you plan for the contingencies of a downturn in the market, the real estate market, the local economy?
Well, as engineers, the foundation of our business is doing quality engineering, providing quality service, being problem solvers, not problem causers. And we know that'll hold us in good stead and bring us return customers. As you said, the economy is cyclical. We've been on a long upward ramp for quite a bit of time, and I've actually been sitting back wondering when it's going to when it's going to slow down. It still shows signs of continuing well. But looking in the future, one of the things I've done is looked to how could I diversify myself, one, geographically. Right now we have offices in San Antonio and Austin. And the other thing is how can I diversify myself into other fields without getting out of the type of engineering we do. We do mechanical, which is air conditioning, lighting, power, plumbing, without getting out of those, without picking up a civil or a structural. And so what I've done is I've identified a couple other companies here in the U.S. who have offices. Like there's a firm, we're an 83-man firm. There's a 63-man firm in Atlanta, and they have an office in Orlando. And there's about a 40-man firm in Phoenix, and they have an office in San Francisco. And we each do different things. The firm in Atlanta deals a lot more in hospitality, which is hotels and things, than we do. And what we've done is create a strategic alliance with them, and we've pursued quite a few hotel projects that prior to this we wouldn't have been able to get. An example is we're going to do the Sheraton Hotel downtown, which is about a 1 million square foot hotel. That project we by ourselves would not have been able to get because we didn't have the length and breadth of experience in the hospitality market. In turn, that firm in Atlanta is using us to help market healthcare and commercial areas that they aren't very strong in. So what we're doing is we found a symbiotic relationship where not only can we expand ourselves geographically, but we're doing it by picking up and helping somebody else who can't do what we can and vice versa.
Leave it to an engineer to use a word like symbiotic. Jack, what does that mean? As we prepare to close, I've got a few closing questions to pose to each of you. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I will. If you could take back one mistake that you made in growing your business, if you had a chance to think it over, do it again, the Monday morning quarterback theory, is there one thing that you immediately could put your finger on? And I'll start with Lewis and work down the table.
I'd say